What's up, YouTube? What's up, Extreme Gains family? I'm Chuck. This is Extreme Gains. I am not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is or ever will be financial advice. Please do not take it as such. Today is Tuesday, May 31st, 2022, and this is my AMC, GME, and SPY Algo Exposed daily update and preparation video for tomorrow and beyond. As always, I hope you had a great day in the market today and you were able to make some extreme gains for your sales. I'm going to go over all the regulars that I go over briefly here, my snake algos for all three tickers, and some macro comparatives. So with all of that said, let's dig in. My apologies for the late video. Not feeling the best, as you can hear. Something going on with my throat, and I had to mow freaking grass again, and that took me a few hours to get done here tonight. So if you're here, I appreciate you being here. I hope you stay to the end, and if you do, thank you very much. All right, real quick, my gains for today were on my scalp ideas. I had one at 150%, two at 80%, two at 70%, one at 60%, two at 50%, a 30%, and a 20% land today. So as I always say, I hope you had an opportunity and took advantage of the volatility and were able to make some extreme gains for yourselves as well. Real quick, one last thing. I currently have 5 spots available in the premium Discord. If you're interested, the link is in the description. Email me and we'll get that ball rolling. All right, on your screen is AMC and my current intra-week snake. AMC finished the day down 0.62%. It is currently up 1.6% in after hours. It ended the day trading at $14.57. The intra-week snake projected and fulfilled perfectly today. Candle for candle today. AMC had an intraday high of $16.66 up to the previous significant level of support and resistance. It got knocked back down. The market flushed out as soon as it opened today. We had some volatility and then it consolidated into after hours, and we're currently up that 1.6%. You can see the projection from the intra-week snake in its current position. If price action were to continue fulfilling it, this is showing an expiration on Thursday, end of day, right? Yep, Thursday, end of day. So if price action were to continue to fulfill that in its entirety, that's what I am looking for. 2 things. Today was day number 5 of projection and fulfillment from this. That's number 1. Number 2, the interchanging of these intra-week snakes have typically happened on Tuesday. However, we've had 3 times where we've had a holiday that has landed on a trading day where we didn't have trading, and it threw a wrench in the interchanging and the sequencing of that interchanging when it comes to these things. So obviously that didn't happen today, so I am looking out for that and going to be vigilant for that. And if you have been here for any period of time, you know the drill. If and when that happens, I will clip day of and day prior to, and then I'll be showing them to you here. But the current one, if it were to continue to fulfill, that's what I'm looking at. The macro comparatives for AMC. The macro double-double from the macro descending wedge prior to the January 2021 run-up. I have had it on here for quite some time, as you all know. And most recently, I've been talking to you about this bottom potentially fulfilling itself in an inverted mirrored way to the upside, whereas the macro comparative was showing downside, and this fulfilled this candle for candle to the upside and converged back with it down here in this bottom and in this corner. And in last night's video, in this position, obviously it appeared as if nothing but upside was on the table for this moving forward. Now that I see this pullback and consolidation, it appears to almost be candle for candle with this. So looking at it like that, if that consolidation and pullback were to be that, then obviously the projection is the same. And whether it is or it isn't, if this thing is in this position in some way, shape, or form, there are pullbacks. There's one here, and there's some up top. So these pullbacks are what I call check down supports on the way up are okay. The projection from this macro comparative does not change in that manner whatsoever. It is in a generalized perspective of all of this upside, no matter what, even with these little pullbacks. So that is the current OG double and how I am currently looking at it going into tomorrow and beyond. Then I looked at a secondary bottom, which is from the previous double right here, and I started looking at this weeks ago because of GME, and GME is fulfilling its previous bottom and replicating the movements of it. This provided some insight and some projection and fulfillment in this downside on the way down that was in a inverted mirroring of the macro double at times. And those of you that have been here know that I used that throughout that to get price action down here, and it fulfilled in its entirety down here. Now, in its straight up position, the projection from this at the end of last week was a rejection off of this 1250 and then downside. It did the complete opposite, right? It ran and breached that to the upside, and it looks, and I brought this up in last night's video, it appears to be potentially invert mirroring this movement of the projection to the downside, but to the upside, just like I talked about the previous bottom potentially doing. So if that is doing that, I need to look at this in the mirrored position. And in the mirrored position, this is what it looks like. So this is my bearish scenario that I am looking at currently with AMC in the macro perspective. So and it did fulfill today to the upside and pulled back down, and we're getting that consolidation. So that is where it's currently at in this, and you can see what the projection would be moving forward into tomorrow and beyond if it were to continue to fulfill this thing. And then obviously the eventual downside grind in the bearish scenario is what I would be looking for from price action if this thing were to continue fulfilling that. So that is what I am looking at with AMC in its entirety. Excuse me. Man, my throat's jacked up. GME, the current intra-week snakes. There are two right now because we had just diverted from the previous one and it fulfilled itself in its entirety. And as you know, I clipped day prior to and day of. Day prior to was here. I showed you in last night's video there was only one place to put this, and it's there. It projected downside and it fulfilled downside. GME finished the day down 9.09%, and it closed up 0.41% and after hours at 125.25. So like I said, the projection fulfilled to the downside. You can see moving forward into tomorrow and beyond what the projection is from this. And it is this midline consolidation and volatility throughout if it were to fulfill in that manner. Now, this one here is the day of divergence. And I spoke to you last night about not knowing yet whether I needed to just put it on the eventual anticipated divergence today with the one move and leave one hanging out here, like so, which would have indicated the upside move, or if I needed to overlap one whole day for this whole movement, and that would have projected downside as well. And I said in last night's video that it would be very apparent today which one it was, and obviously with that heavy 9% downside move, this is the one. So that is the position of the day of divergence. Moving forward, you can see the projection from it is drastically different than the day of divergence, or the day prior to, I'm sorry. So there's the two of them on there together, and what I will be looking at as potential characteristics of movements to distinguish between the two of them and go with one moving into tomorrow potentially and beyond. It appears to me like it should show itself tomorrow. Then the macro comparative for GME that I have been using. I spoke when I was speaking about AMC briefly about this. It is from the next door double over here. And GME has been replicating these movements for a minute now from this macro comparative. I have been showing and tracking this in two different positions. The first one is in the straight up position, and in the straight up position, this fulfilled to the downside today, and the projection moving forward into tomorrow and beyond is, as you see it, it looks like upside moving into tomorrow from this, and then obviously a little more, upside tomorrow, then potentially the continuation of upside into Thursday morning, and then we start potentially downside and then consolidation. We'll get to that if and when we continually get fulfillment out of this. I don't want to get too far out in front, but for the time being, it is continually fulfilling its projection in the straight up position. And that would, just like the other one, complete this macro double-double that I've had framed in here on GME forever if it were to continue to fulfill that in its entirety. Then the mirrored position of this is like this. And the projection from it today also fulfilled to the downside. The projection moving forward from this into tomorrow and beyond, what looks and appears to be the rest of this week, is upside in a heavy manner. So the difference between the two macro comparatives, this one is upside to the mid time frame third pull in my box top setup that I have for this right now, to around the 155 156 area, then rejection, whereas the mirrored placement of the macro comparative shows a move and continuation to upside to around the 185 to 190 area throughout the rest of this week's, by the looks of it. So that is everything that I am looking for and looking at with GME. Last but not least, SPY. The current intra-week snake for SPY is as you see it. Now, I have something in question with the placement of this as to whether or not this peak has fulfilled itself yet or not, or if we are currently in this check down consolidation portion of it. So if the peak has fulfilled, this is what that would look like. If that peak has already fulfilled, then it is showing downside, what looks to be into tomorrow and potentially into Thursday, and then a move back up on Friday and potentially back down then Friday afternoon. If it were to fulfill in this manner, in this placement, indicating that that peak has already been fulfilled. If that peak has not been fulfilled, I'm not going to stretch it or nothing. I'm just going to show you by moving it. And that is the check down there. And this moves to the upside tomorrow in a strong way. Then I would be looking at this. I would obviously have to extend this a little bit, but that peak would then potentially be fulfilled tomorrow, and then moving into the latter part of the week, Thursday and Friday, and potentially next week for the rest of these movements to fulfill. So that is what I am looking at going into tomorrow with SPY when it comes to the intra-week snake. Real quick, SPY finished the day today down 0.56%, and it ended up 0.38% in after hours at 414.50. Then the macro comparatives for SPY. The red one is from the 0809 correction and crash, and it's what I've called the extended version. Just like the AMC macro comparative, I have been tracking this and going over it daily since I started the channel. The projection from it, and keep in mind this has always been, let me zoom back out, a suggested projected path, not a candle for candle projection and fulfillment. The overall generalized perspective of this path that this macro comparative has laid, price action has followed to some extent. There have been some inverted mirrorings, therefore it has not been a candle for candle. So I have spoke about this in great detail throughout these videos quite frequently to make sure that everyone is reminded of that. So with this moving forward, if this were to continue to fulfill this in some way, all I want to see is this consolidation here finish out and then the eventual downside move. So looking at this, that is all I am looking for. There are times when this has provided candle for candle, and if you look at this as a level change, it is essentially almost candle for candle until you get here. Then this appears to be potentially that. And then this is how I would be looking at it moving forward if I were to get semi-granular with this, to look at it in somewhat of a candle for candle. But nonetheless, I try not to do that. I just wanted you to see that for the video and let you know as a disclaimer what I use this for is a suggested projected path. So that is the 0809 macro comparative. Then last but not least is what I have been jokingly calling the cuckoo kachoo, the crazy batshit crazy macro comparative, the weekly clip from crash to crash, put on here from it's clipped from the bottom of 09 to the top of 2019, and it's laid and overlaid on the bottom of 2020 to where we're at currently and then beyond. This is and shows a potential W formation, which we're going to look at and we've already fulfilled, and then a continuation to upside in an unbelievable way to eventual all-time highs. I think it would be nuts if price action would do that. However, you can see here the W formation, and you can see here the W formation that we have now fulfilled and the move to the upside. This is a weekly clip, so we're looking at about a week or so in between these candles, maybe just less, maybe 4 days, depending upon the pull on it, but it is a weekly clip. So moving forward, I talked about this, whether it's consolidation on the way up, that's fine because of this being a larger macro clip, but nonetheless, it's a continuation to upside if it were to continue to fulfill this crazy move to the upside if price action were to do that. So just keeping an eye on it. If price action is going to continue to the upside in any kind of manner, obviously that's going to be on my radar. I talked briefly, and this is the last thing I'm going to talk about, if and when price action were to make its way out here to the end of this, out here, then obviously a decision would be made upside or downside. That is when I believe this could potentially become somewhat of a reality, at least for a continuation to upside move if it does not fulfill the rest of the 0809 crash to the downside. So that is what I am looking at with AMC, GME, and SPY going into tomorrow and beyond. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you very much. I'll get another update and prep video out tomorrow night after market close. Do y'all's thing tomorrow. Make some extreme gains for yourself, and I will see you all tomorrow night in the next one. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your night. Later.